fight fans? So, there's a few things I would like to talk to you guys about regarding Jake Paul. First of all, his fight with Anderson Silva. I've been hearing a lot of talks and there's been a lot of rumors and a lot of speculation about this fight possibly being rigged. That there's even clips of the fight being rigged. Guys, I gotta tell you right here, right now, first of all, you have any idea how hard it is to rig a fight at that higher caliber? It's extremely hard. Extremely hard. Maybe the judges could be swayed one way or the other on a scorecard, like we've seen in the past, like we've seen with certain fights where we feel like that fighter won, but on the judges' cards, they clearly lost. So in some type of way, sure, maybe we don't know what the judges see, we don't know what the judges were looking at, we don't know what the judges pay attention for, we don't know, but we can see something like that. But as far as a fighter taking a fall, guys, at that high level, at the highest level of where Jake Paul is at right now, where Anderson Silva is at right now, where the UFC, where boxing is at right now, it's next to impossible to do. You have no idea how hard it is and how difficult it is and how illegal it is to do that. You know, especially at guys at that caliber. Because then if it gets caught, if it just shows 100% proof that this happened, the guy would be banned for life in any kind of competition. You guys got to understand, Jake Paul, not so much right now, but we do know he's dedicated. We do know he wants to make a name for himself. So you can still put him on the list. But what I'm going to also say is guys like Anderson Silva, who have been a born fighter, who have been trying to be a fighter since day one, who have been studying the mixed martial arts of jiu-jitsu, of Muay Thai, of boxing. He's even throwing wrestling in there. He's done everything and anything he can. He is by far the GOAT, the pound for pound best of all time, arguably, to some people's eyes. So to say that someone at that caliber is willing to throw a fight, no, it's impossible. Never, ever, ever could happen at that level. If you want to go down the line, we're talking about straight up in the streets. We're talking about straight up amateurs. We're talking about somewhere way down there. Possibly, I don't know, but at the highest professional level, very, very, I'm talking about 99.99.9999999% chance that is not going to happen ever. There's always that 1%, that little 0.1% chance that it could, but that is straight up 100% speculation. 100%. It could never ever happen in the sport of boxing, in the sport of UFC, in the sport of MMA, whatever you want to use, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, doesn't matter. It could never happen because I promise you, one, there's just way too many obstacles to go through to even make that happen. Two, these guys are die-hard sports athletes, MMA fighters, UFC fighters, boxers, to the bone, that they will never ever do something like that to throw money in their pocket. Anderson Silva's rich. Anderson Silva's made a lot of money in these UFC days. And he's only going to make more money. But you're going to really tell me that in this one instance, this one case, he just so happens to do it for someone like Jake Paul? No. Impossible. Never, ever could happen. So right then and there, I don't care what shots they see. I don't care what angles they see regarding a punch of maybe it never landed. No. No. Never, ever. Guys, whoever's saying that, whoever's thinking that, whoever's speculating that, please get that out of your head, because it doesn't matter what proof you think you have. It is not ever, ever going to happen this time or the last time or even the next time. It is never going to happen. So that's out of the way. One thing I also want to talk to you about Jake Paul is I heard about him doing an interview. I believe it was with Ariel Helwani, and he's even talks about how he wants to do a fight with Floyd Mayweather. And he talks about how he wants to do an actual boxing match and how they can possibly sanction a match between Floyd Mayweather possibly weighing at 165 and with Jake Paul weighing at 175, and that the athletic commission can actually sanction that. Well, here's what I got to say regarding that. One, Floyd's not going to do that. Why? Because if he's actually going to have a boxing match, if he's going to have a legit boxing match, not an exhibition fight, an actual boxing match, the guy's going to do it at his weight class. You got to remember, he is the great. He is the all-time. He is the one that is going to call all the shots. He is the A side. Jake Paul would go in there being the B side. He would have to go through anything and everything that Floyd Mayweather wants him to go through. He would have to literally wear the gloves that Floyd wants him to do. He would have to go in the ring like Floyd wants him to go to. He would have to basically dress how Floyd wants him to dress. He would have to wear the shoes that Floyd wants him to wear. And he would have to, and this is the one that's the most important one, he would have to be at that weight that Floyd is at. He is not going to go up there and try to make it an even fight. That's not Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather has never ever done that for any true any boxer or any athlete out there. He has never ever done that. Ever. He has never really ever done that to anybody. He's always made it to where it was everything was in favor for him. So he's not going to give this guy a chance, a little chance of like, oh well, I'll let him come down. He can fight at that class. I'll fight in my class. Like no, impossible. And that's why that fight is never going to happen, guys. It will never ever happen because Jake Paul cannot get down ever. He would literally have to cut off both his legs to get down to 154. 154. That's the highest Floyd Mayweather would ever go to. He would never go to one middleweight, especially if you're gonna do an exhibition fight, because that's something that Floyd Mayweather is gonna do, and that's something that Floyd Mayweather will talk about, and that is something Floyd Mayweather is doing regardless. Like he is, when it comes to his zero, when it comes to being undefeated, he takes pride in that. Oh, and he is going to. If he's gonna box you and you're gonna be at the higher weight class, he will make sure it's an exhibition, just like he did with his brother Logan Paul. They had an exhibition fight. He allowed Logan Paul to weigh at a certain weight. Floyd Mayweather weighed at a certain weight, and they made it happen. But if he's gonna try to put that zero on the line, he's gonna try to put that undefeated record on the line. He's gonna do it at 154 or even 147, around that frame, 147 and 154. That's what you're gonna weigh if you want to try to go in there in a real boxing fight with Floyd Mayweather. And we already know what could happen at Floyd Mayweather at that weight. It will be, one, it can never happen because Jake Paul can never make that weight. Two, Floyd Mayweather more likely pretty much pick him apart. Because Floyd Mayweather is not going to make it in a boxing match. He's not going to try to outbrawl you. He's not going to try to, outpower you, outmuscle you. He's not going to try to do any of those things. He's definitely going to go in there and do what he does best, dance around his opponent, tap, hit, clinch, and then move around. He's going to make it very frustrating like he did for everybody else in that ring. And for all the 50 opponents that he had, that's exactly what he's going to do to Jake Paul. So I suggest Jake Paul to get that out of his head. No, you cannot do that. Unless somehow, some way, and some miracle happens where he can go down to 154 pounds to fight Floyd Mayweather, maybe Floyd Mayweather can consider it. Maybe Floyd Mayweather has to see him at 154 pounds first. Maybe Jake Paul could do some kind of crazy diet and go down that weight class. I don't recommend it because you're already high as it is. You walk around at 200 pounds. We're talking about you dropping 50 pounds. That's a lot of weight to drop. That's a crazy amount of weight to drop. So to be able to do that, it's just, I don't know. I don't see it happening, but who knows? But if you're going to ask me, 100% no. Whew, guys. So more news on Jake Paul. With Jake Paul, I actually recently found out after hearing him do a few interviews that he's actually been banned from the UFC. I guess, you got to be doing something right, I guess. It's wrong to be banned, first of all, but you got to be doing something right, something to irritate Dana White in order for him to ban you for even being a fan to go into the sport, to going over there. He doesn't even want him as a fan to walk into that sport, walk into that arena as a fan to watch the fights. He doesn't want that. So he must be getting underneath Dana White's skin. And that goes into my next topic of the fact that Jake Paul, change this whole fighter pay, this fighter union that he keeps talking about. He's been talking about a lot about it. He's been talking about getting fighters health care. He's been talking about getting fighters better at pay. He's been talking about more about fighter rights. He's been doing that for a very long time. I believe ever since this Ben Askren fight, I kind of heard about it, that he's been actually really, really talking about this. So that must be getting under Dana's skin. Of course, they've been trash talking back and forth. Jake Paul has said a lot of bad things about Dana. Dana said a lot of bad things about Jake Paul. And they're both trolling each other. And I think Dana already said in recent interviews that he wants nothing to do with it. Like, he doesn't want it. He doesn't want anything to do with him. But, of course, Jake Paul is always going to go after Dana. And he's going to go after the fact that we know what's going on in the UFC when regarding fighter pay. We've heard it from the likes of Francis Ngannou, Jorge Masvidal, John Jones. We've heard it from multiple even fighters, even on the lower level. We already heard it from the stars, but now we're hearing it from the lower level guys. So, and they've been talking about how they do want better pay. Even George St. Pierre did an interview with the Morning Combat Crew on Showtime, and he talks about, like, if he was able to change anything, he would change fighter pay. He would get better pay, and it's true, guys. It's true, because there's a point to that. You see some of these fighters who are making 10, 20, $30,000 a fight, and some of these guys are ranked opponents. Some of these guys are top 10. You put anybody in the top 10 in boxing, they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds, easy. Maybe even I say, you know what? I'm being a little generous. Anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 for those like top 10 opponents. Like I'm talking about 5 through 10. But if you go five through 1, you're looking into almost hundreds and hundreds, if not millions of dollars for these guys who are going in there. You look at some of these UFC guys, some of them are at the top, the 10 level, maybe a little around like 9, 10, or like look at like 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere around their level. They're not making that. They're probably bringing in like 30, 40, $50,000. So it's and I could be wrong. I could be very, very wrong. And if I am, well, then I definitely do apologize. But from the looks of it, and from the sound of it, it definitely sounds like some of these guys could be getting paid a lot more. And even at the higher level, guys, Francis Ngannou was the famous one that so far came out. Heavyweight champion of the world, makes $600,000 for his fight against Cyril Gane. Do you know any heavyweight champion in the world? You're looking at Tyson Fury. You're looking at Anthony Joshua. You're looking at even Deontay Wilder, Usyk. All of them are making like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, maybe even more $million. That's their heavyweight champion. That's the heavyweights right there in boxing. So yeah, there is something wrong regarding fighter and pay. So I see why Jake Paul is banned. I see why he is definitely trying his best to go, to go for this unionize the fighters and all these other different obstacles that he wants to go through to unionize the fighters. I see why he wants to do that. And one, is a good way to get attention. Let's face facts. It's a good way to get underneath someone's skin. It's a good way to get someone talking about you. It's a good way to get all eyes on you. It's basically a really good way to put yourself out there. Definitely. 100% good way to put yourself out there. By getting underneath by far the boss of MMA right now, I guess you could say. You got a few bosses in MMA, but the boss of bosses right now is Dana White. And he wants to change Dana White's rules. He wants to change the UFC's rules. He wants to change the way the fighters are getting paid and the way they're getting treated. And that's something he definitely wants to do. So who knows? Maybe that's something that Jake Paul could actually do, because he has a big platform. He has a big name, and he actually has the money to help back up the fighters. So you never know. It can actually possibly happen. Now he's already having some former UFC fighters to come out and possibly even talk regarding this. So it definitely is going to help him. And that's what something about I got to say about UFC fighters too, that the current UFC fighters even want to try to boycott Jake Paul. They want to try to boycott him. Like, hey, don't watch any more fights. Don't look at any more fights. Don't do anything regarding these fights. That's fine. Like, hey, you know what? Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Everyone's entitled to watch what they want to watch. Everyone's entitled to, like, hey, if you don't want to see me, that's fine. Turn off the TV, change the channel. We all have that freedom. But this is what he's going to do. And nobody should be boycotted for doing what they want to do. Like, you may not agree to it. You may not like it. And that's your opinion. That's 100% your opinion. But the guy should not be stopped from doing what he actually wants to do. Because in technicality, he is not necessarily hurting anybody. He is boxing. So, yeah, of course, they're hurting people there. But he's not hurting anybody physically, as far as like, illegally, I guess you could say. So that's basically it. And he's stating his opinion on what he feels regarding the UFC and the fighters in the union. Now, of course, some of these fighters are going to probably stick up for the UFC because, of course, they are still within the UFC. And they're still backing up Dana White because they're still getting paid by Dana White. So I can see why, they might have their opinions regarding that. But you also got to look on the outside like, hey, you know what? He's going to try to get paid. He sees a flaw in the system, in the MMA system or the UFC system, whatever you want to call it, that he wants to get fixed. Maybe he doesn't intentionally want to do it. Maybe this is just his way of getting attention and getting all eyes on him. But at the end of the day, he's right. There is somewhat of a small flaw in that system, and it needs to be changed. It really does. Because we're looking at these guys overall. We're looking at these guys, like, basically put it this way. Dana White knows that Francis Ngannou, Nate Diaz, some of these other UFC fighters could make a lot of money going out and boxing. They could, just like Conor did. And he's holding them from doing that. We remember George St. Pierre. He wanted to box Oscar De La Hoya, and he held him from doing that. All because he's still under that contract. But he could have been a human being like, hey, you know what? Go ahead, do your thing. Make your money. Especially to George. Like, hey, he's done with the UFC. Who cares? He's done. He's not coming back. He already said, no, I don't want to come back. I don't want to do anything. You know what? Hey, go ahead. Do your thing. Make your money. You help me. You help grow my sport. You help make my sport what it is, because that's what it is, guys. We always got to remember these fighters, Dana White helps make them. Dana will by giving them a platform to showcase what they got, and these fighters help Dana by showing them what they got, by going in there and giving great fights, by making the people pay and buy the t-shirts, buy the pay-per-view, and make the buys go up higher and higher and higher. They don't buy the pay-per-view to watch the beautiful octagon and the lights and all these other production value that they have going on, which is a really good production value. No, they're paying all that great money, all that big money, all buying all the merchandise for the fighters, because the fighters are what brought them there. So for Dana White to hold them as if like, no, we own you. You do what we say, how we do it, how we want it, until you are done 100% with that contract. Like, no, come on. Like, at that point, it's not about being a businessman. It's also about being a person. Like, sure, you don't want your company getting tarnished. I promise you, Jake Paul, if Nate Diaz, Francis Ngannou, all them guys got knocked out, it's not going to do one thing to the business. Not one thing. So that's just what I got to say, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think about everything I just talked about regarding Jake Paul. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video.